Many modern accounts frame early American slavery as an archaic, regional tradition of the agrarian South, functioning in a separate sphere from the formal capitalist economy. This chart compares the 1860 value of 4 million enslaved people to other major economic assets. Valued at over $3 billion, roughly $97 billion today, they represented more capital than all the nation's railroads and manufacturing combined. This accumulation of wealth existed alongside the nation's founding ideals of enlightenment and liberty. Many of the men who authored those principles, such as Thomas Jefferson, were themselves primary beneficiaries of human property. This raises a central question. How did a nation built on the concept of liberty develop the legal and systematic machinery to break a human being down into raw, tradable capital? To find the answer, we have to look past the actions of individual owners and examine a highly efficient national system designed to protect human commodification. Human property was explicitly protected by the country's foundational legal framework. The Three-Fifths Compromise used the enslaved population to calculate a state's voting power, granting slaveholding states a massive artificial advantage. Additionally, the Fugitive Slave Clause forced northern jurisdictions to return escaped human property. These provisions ensured that the entire nation, not just the South, was legally bound to uphold the institution of slavery. When the federal government banned the international slave trade in 1808, it created a massive supply crisis for enslavers, just as the Southern economy began to shift. The invention of the cotton gin allowed for the rapid processing of short-staple cotton, causing the demand for labor in the Deep South to skyrocket. This map illustrates the result, the Second Middle Passage. Between 1790 and 1860, over 1 million enslaved people were forcibly moved from the Upper South into new territories in the Deep South. To meet this demand, states like Virginia and Maryland transitioned their economies toward slave production. They systematically tore apart families to breed and sell human beings to the expanding cotton frontier. Industrial progress did not make slavery obsolete. It increased the speed at which families were separated to keep the cotton supply moving. It is a mistake to view this economic engine as an isolated Southern enterprise. Northern textile mills were entirely dependent on the steady flow of slave-produced cotton to generate industrial wealth and power the local economy. This shipping dock in South Carolina shows the scale of the export trade, but the infrastructure behind it was national. New York City banks, insurance companies, and northern shipping fleets provided the financing and transportation that made the plantation system profitable. Slavery served as the primary American economic engine, enriching the North as much as the South. The commodification of human beings extended past large-scale trade and into the micro-realities of biology. On specialized breeding farms, enslaved women were subjected to forced pregnancies, treated as biological machines tasked with producing new capital for their owners. The system also facilitated a fancy girl trade, where young, light-skinned women were marketed and sold at premium prices, specifically for sexual use. Even physical remains were monetized. Enslaved people were used as subjects for unanesthetized medical experiments, and after death, their tissues, including skin, bones, and fat, were sometimes harvested and sold for profit. The law allowed every facet of a human life, labor, children, and physical anatomy, to be extracted and converted into a line item for profit. Maintaining a system of this scale required a total psychological and cultural shift to justify the violence. Southern leadership shifted their rhetoric over time. They moved from describing slavery as a necessary evil to aggressively defending it as a positive good for both the enslaved and the enslaver. This defense relied on pseudoscience. Physicians even pathologized the desire for freedom, inventing conditions like drapetomania to explain why an enslaved person might try to escape. As the nation's economic reliance on slavery deepened, the cultural justifications became more extreme to match the financial stakes. Because of this deep economic integration, there was no path for slavery to peacefully disappear. Dismantling the legal classification of human beings as property required the bloodiest conflict in American history. The formal end of this system came with the 13th Amendment, which finally nullified the legal status of humans as property. For nearly a century, slavery served as the bedrock of the American economic system. Understanding these calculated mechanics of human commodification is essential to seeing how the United States was built.